101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest, the people first engineer, none other than Mr. Andre Thornton.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening.
Welcome, Mr. Andre. I'm Book 101 review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure, I am an engineer who, interestingly, is more focused on people and processes. So I have about 25 years experience. I spent the first 18 or so years at a very large company doing traditional aerospace engineering work, and then almost 10 years ago started this journey doing leadership development with a company called Whitman Consulting. Whitman is my middle name. I get that question a lot. And so what we do is think of it as leadership training for managers. We go around and we provide leadership training and coaching for cohorts of leaders and managers across teams.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Andre. Yeah, thank you. So today let's talk about leadership development. Interesting topic. So, how do you define the core difference between managing tasks and leading people, and why is that distinction critical for development programs?
Oh, it's a really important question because a lot of people are in management positions, and managing tasks is what management is. But if we're in a management position, what's interesting is by definition, we have people we're responsible for and that we supervise. So to go into a management position without understanding the leadership part, because the leadership is all people, I think it sets us up for a really difficult time as a manager. An engineer who moved up in the ranks because I was really good technically at what I did. I understood the processes and I moved into management. And at first, no one taught me about how to manage people slash lead people. And so I took some of those same management approaches to managing and slash leading people. And by that, I mean very detail oriented. I needed to be right. I needed to get the right answer all the time. It was sort of my way or the highway because that's how engineers think. We create things and they need to work. So, we're pretty firm on it. When you talk about people, that's not how you lead people. It's actually kind of counterintuitive to how you lead people. So, this idea of someone being in a management position and not being taught to lead creates a very tense situation, I'll say, for a team. And I think it happens a lot of times. Companies pick their best technical people, put them in management, and expect that they'll just be able to figure out the leadership. But leadership is actually harder than management. So that's why I decided that that's where I want to focus.
Yes, being a leader is hard. People, you need to be let's say, the model. In your experience, what is the most significant teachable trait or skill that proves great leader are made through development?
I have a book coming out soon, and the title is Disrupted. And the title and the concept of being disrupted is the idea that basically we go through things that we don't expect that may sort of disorient us in any situation. And I think the number one skill for leaders is knowing how to move through that moment of disruption. And the moment of disruption is when, let's say, and I'm the most logical engineering process focused person ever back when I started my career. But you have a process, everything's very logical. And you follow the process, steps one, two, three. Disruption is when you get to step two and someone pushes you not to a step three, but to a step six. And you're like, wait a minute, that's not logical. That's not how this works. Being able to recover in that moment and come up with the best way forward I think is the number one leadership skill. It's being able to go from this sort of simple, process oriented, logical thing to do to when you add in the human element, there's going to be pushback. There's going to be unexpected changes. There's life is full of things that create uncertainty. So how you manage those moments, I think is the number one skill in how to be an effective leader because that's ultimately what defines your leadership. If you didn't have to deal with those moments, you wouldn't need leaders. You would just need managers because everything's logical and process oriented. But when the moment of disruption hits, the human element of how to lead people, first yourself and then other people through it, I think is the most important skill.
And Mr. Andre, let's talk about the modern leadership. Give the rise of remote hybrid work and Gen Z entering the workforce. What does effective leadership look like today that it did not 10 years ago?
Well, the biggest shift now is artificial intelligence, right? I mean, you literally, as you enter the workforce or you're early in your career and you're building up your expertise in an area, you're competing with technology. That's something my generation, I'm a Gen X, we didn't have to deal with that. You know, we technology kind of had its place. It was a tool that we would use. But now there are literal bots that with agentic AI can do the exact same work that you can do as an entry level professional. So understanding very early how to connect the work that you do in a way that you understand how what you do connects with what artificial intelligence does ultimately so that you can bring value to whatever organization or company or whatever it is that you do. I think is the thing that's different. You have to see AI as a peer and then ultimately also as an employee of yours. You're coming into the workforce leading managing slash leading AI. And that is different. That's the skill that, you know, they talk about all these jobs that are going to be lost from AI. And I think it's the people that master that skill, how to make AI your friend, how to make it your colleague, how to leverage it and harness it, that are going to be the most successful in this next era. And so we focus a lot on that. That's starts with the sort of humility of realizing, hey, you know, I don't know it all. I do need this other tool. And I'm going to go into it with eyes wide open and curiosity and figure out how to make it work.
On program design and execution, Mr. Andre, what is the single biggest mistake organizations make when designing or purchasing leadership development programs?
Yeah, it's interesting. The thing that I've seen consistently, and being an engineer in this space, it kind of grabbed me right away. There are billions of dollars spent on leadership development training, and there has not traditionally been a way to directly connect that investment to a return for the business. And that is a mistake that I've seen made, and it's an expectation that I've seen allow to live in that there is no expectation that we're going to connect this leadership training, this workshop, this course over multiple months or weeks to a business outcome because you know there's just so many variables involved in the business outcome. How can you connect it directly to leadership training? And I think that is an opportunity. There are all ways to make the connection. My firm, this is what we do. We make that connection because as an engineer who was so process oriented from the beginning, when I moved into the space of people and developing people, not being able to close that gap was something that I couldn't live with. So we figured out how do you make the connection between, think of it as a leading indicator of how people are behaving differently because they've taken leadership training, and the lagging indicator of the outcomes for the business. We close the gap. I think that's really important.
We know that the most learning happens on the job, not in the seminar, Mr. Andre. How can organizations best structure strengths assignments and real world projects to be true development accelerators or
The m-
accelerators?
great question. The main thing to do with those accelerator projects is there's a muscle memory of learning how to do a new thing that goes into anything new that we learn how to do. I have a son and he's 10 years old. And, I was reading the book Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. And, she was in her book, she talks about how you have to be believing that you can learn a new thing. And that sort of takes the lid off of what you're capable of. And so my son was learning to walk at the same time I'm reading this book. And, I would see him sort of pull up and, he would fall down right away. And, he would just, we would be all worried. I would run over scared he's going to cry. And he would just look up at me and he would just pull up and he would try again. And that's how he learned how to walk. And that's how we learn how to do anything. We have to fall, we have to fail our way through it. Now, where that comes in with creating, we'll call them stretch assignments for leaders, is you create an environment where it's safe to fall, where it's safe to fail. You have to realize that there's a muscle memory to learning how to come up with an idea, put a plan in place, and move forward with executing that plan and getting people on board. There's a muscle memory, there's a skill development that happens with that. So what does that mean to say, we're going to create an environment where it's safe? These are smaller projects. These are projects that maybe don't have a direct impact on the business right away, but they're sort of practice projects. When we were teaching my son how to walk, we didn't take him out to the street for those first steps. He's in a very safe environment. He has a couch. There's a soft floor for him to fall on, and the same thing should apply when we're looking at how do we create these experiences for leaders to develop the skills. We want to create an environment where the fail is not as painful for them or for the company, and guarantee they will learn it if they get the feedback. They accept the feedback and they adapt as they go. Just like we learned how to walk, they can learn how to do anything.
Leadership development is often seen as a soft cause. How can it tangibly measure its impact on retention, team performance, and business outcomes?
It's a soft skill, but it's the hardest. I love this idea that, we take something that is as ambiguous as human behavior, and we treat it, we pay attention to it, we pay attention to culture and leadership, but we aren't usually able to make that connection to the hard outcome for the business. And I think first we have to understand and recognize that these behaviors are driving outcomes. Now, I grew up in an environment that at first, when I first got there, they were just kind of going through this new culture shift. And it was very hard nosed, very my way or the highway. It was very abrupt and kind of coarse. And I saw the culture change. There was a new CEO that came in and I saw the change. And so what was interesting was the abrupt, abrasive management leadership style did get results.
Mhm.
It got results. Things were great when I got there. What happened was things had caught up, and those results are short lived. Those results will gift you something in the immediate moment, but you've now displaced your entire workforce from wanting to engage. You got the result for this week, but what about next month or next year or next decade? So what I was able to see was when you do change the culture and you have the same firm requirements, we have a high level of excellence, all the things, but you pay attention to the human element and how you treat people, you get not only better results in the near term, but those results can last for decades and decades. And I've been able to see how that transformation happens. So it's understanding that there's a system. The leading indicator are the behaviors of people, the lagging indicator are the outcomes. And in any system, you have to pay attention to those leading indicators, because if you don't, eventually they're going to start impacting your lagging indicators in a negative way. And that's the way I think of leadership development and business outcomes. They are intertwined in such a strong way that I find it hard to think about them separately. It's like they are one thing in my head.
Mr. Andre, as a people first engineer, what are your short term and long term goals?
Short term goals. So, very immediate, as I mentioned, I have a book that's coming out. The release date for publish is March 31st. So there's a big focus on that book, and the title of the book is Disrupted: the Two Stabilizers and Seven Accelerators of Growth Through Chaos. And the reason we're putting that book out is there's been a lot of change and disruption in this last year in the United States and across the globe. And what we want to help people do is help them realize that what they're feeling in this moment of uncertainty and sometimes loss of control, what their initial response to that is very human, and it's understandable, and it's absolutely not something to be ashamed of or feel like we can't talk about. So we want to talk about that, and then we want to give people I want to give people the tools to move through it. And these two stabilizers and seven accelerators are how you do that. And it's all built on the neuroscience of how the human experience works. It's also built on systems that I've designed for my own self as an engineer and started doing this work 10 years ago. It's systems that I've designed and used to sort of structure my life. And, it's kind of interesting how it all comes together. Think of it as like grind culture meets law of attraction. That's what this book is about. So that's short term. Long term, there's been, I feel, a shift in the style, if you will, the intent of management in this last year. And long term, my personal goal is to help teams, people, organizations create environments and do this at scale for any company that is in the space of, as I mentioned, where my old company was when I first got there. And the culture is hard, and people are not enjoying the experience. The work needs to be hard, but it shouldn't be hard to work there. Our long-term goal, my long-term goal, is to change that across any industry, any company that is having to experience that. And the reason that matters so much to me is it helps people reach their full potential. I'm One of my core values is growth. I have a hard time when I see people operating below what I feel like they're capable of, and I can see that potential. It's just in me to want to help them grow it. And so when these environments are there, the science says that they actually limit what people can do. There's a whole course that I could teach on the neuroscience of how these course environments can kind of hold people back. But ultimately, I want to help everyone be the best that they possibly can. So, what's interesting is when we talk about, company culture and, organizational outcomes, the other thing that I've learned, and this is really why this book and everything that I do is focused on people, is if you have a trust problem or you have a collaboration problem in your company, it comes down to each individual person and what's going on inside of them. So my goal, both short term and long term, is to help as many of those individual people in the world as possible so that they can show up as their best selves, which ultimately brings out the best in each other. I used to think we could just jump to the entire culture in the group. And I understand now that that's more of a lagging indicator within the leading indicator. It starts with each individual and helping them personalize what's happening inside of them so that they can ultimately show up as their best selves and bring out the best in the people around them.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Andre, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Thank you. I appreciate that, Daniel. This is obviously a big task. one that I am definitely up for and wake up excited every day trying to figure out how to do more of it. So thank you for giving me a chance to share a little bit of the story here.
No worries at all. So, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Being that it's the beginning of the year, a book that I come back to because there's just so many great principles, and it's a very popular book. Atomic Habits by James Clear is one of my favorite go-tos for myself as a reread, but also as a recommendation to others if you haven't read it. Because the idea of like a New Year's resolution, the idea of wanting to do something new is not novel. What he does in his book, though, is he gives you a system to help you actually take the action. And it's all based on the human experience and really understanding and breaking it down. So that would be my book recommendation, Atomic Habits by James Clear, one of the best-selling books I understand of all times already. And so I want to encourage more people to read that.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Andre. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in fifth season, Abstract Poetry in second season, and my Book 101 is sixth season this year, Comedy 101 in third season, and Food 101 in sixth season as well, Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101, Review Music 101, or fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101, third season, MRBB podcast, Mental Health 101, Law 101, Bible Verses 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and Motivation 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Andre, if you could institute one simple, regular practice in every team meeting across an organization to develop leadership at all levels, what would it be?
One practice across all teams, and this is an interesting way to think about teams. Back to my comment about it's about what's happening within each person. One practice would be, there's a way to check in with people when you enter a meeting. Usually you get in, you cordial, you say, "Hey, how you doing? How was your break? How was your holiday? Or how was your weekend?" Or whatever the topic. The practice that I recommend is to start with a way to literally measure how everyone's feeling. So come up with a scale of 1 to 10 and have everyone share what their number is, starting with the leader of the team to be first. Because if if the leader's number is low, then it makes it okay for everyone else's number to be low. Now, if the leader's number is high, that could kind of pressure folks. So it depends on, circumstance. But sometimes you want the leader to start, sometimes you may not. But the idea is we put a number of 1 to 10 out there. And then we say, okay, the goal is, there's an average. Let's say the average is 6.2. The goal is to raise that number by the end of this meeting collectively for the team. And with that intent, and then you do all the business, you put all the business around it, but you have this intent of we're trying to raise the level of frequency for this group of people. And with that simple shift, and it's something that you do consistently, you actually measure, you'll be amazed at how it makes it okay to feel how you feel in the moment. And it creates intention around helping people, helping each other feel better and do better, do their best throughout the meeting and then leaving that meeting at a higher level than they were.
Mr. Andre Thornton, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your upcoming book, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, so the book, as I mentioned, will be launched March 31st. There'll be options for pre-order. You can go to my website, andrewhitmanthornton.com. That will be out in the next couple of weeks. If you want to pre-order, if you're watching this now, this is January, early January, then go to whitmanconsulting.com and you can learn more and reach out. I'm on Andre W. Thornton on LinkedIn, Andre Whitman Thornton on Instagram. Would love to connect and share. This is all passion and purpose work for me. So I'm happy to talk to anyone that wants to chat.
Yes, people support Mr. Andre Thornton because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering advocacy will rise. So, Mr. Andre, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
Monica people, see you soon.